Hello and welcome to the What Shara Made podcast, episode 1. I have been wanting to make a video podcast about my crafty pursuits for probably close to a year now, and I'm finally doing it. So welcome and thank you for joining me. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I live in a beautiful little valley just outside of Melbourne in the southeastern corner of Australia. And I love almost anything that's crafty. I'm a knitter, a sewer, a crocheter, a weaver, a spinner and a dyer. And I like to do all of those things as much as I possibly can. And most of my life revolves around making time to do all those things as much as I can. And I always have a million ideas and maybe not enough time to execute them all, but that's okay. I learnt to knit as a child when I was about 5. My older brother taught me to knit and I was very excited about that. And I used to just make little toys and clothes, my dolls and things like that. And I don't really remember knitting at all during high school, but then when I went to art school I started knitting a lot more prolifically, and I even used some of my knitting in my art pieces at school, and I haven't really stopped knitting since then, so it's been a constant through most of my adult life. As for crochet, I didn't start crocheting until I was actually at art school, and I was so determined to learn to crochet, but I didn't know anyone else that knew how to crochet. So one day I went to the library and I borrowed a how to crochet book, and I went home, I shut myself in my room and I declared to my housemates, I'm not coming out until I can crochet. And I sat there and I tried and tried and tried, and eventually, by the end of that day, I had made a very hideous but successful hat. And I could crochet and I was so pleased. And I had actually been collecting over the years lots and lots of pretty groovy and somewhat hilarious vintage crochet patterns, lots of crocheted bikinis and crocheted trousers and all sorts of interesting, strange, wonderful things. And I wanted to wear those things. I wanted to make those things. So that's what I did. And I made lots of interesting, weird, revolting, strange, wonderful things from all my vintage crochet patterns that I've been collecting over the years, and I loved them. And I would make other weird, wacky things with my friends, and we all loved our weird vintage crochet. And thankfully that love of weird, strange crocheted garments, was satisfied, and I didn't need to do it anymore. I don't make too many weird and wonderful things with crochet now, more sensible things. And as for my sewing, I have been doing lots of sewing recently, getting my sewing machine out a lot more frequently. And I like to make myself lots of garments, but also like to make project bags, and which comes in handy because I always have a multitude of works in progress, so they need somewhere to live. And I have actually just made myself a really, really great pair of overalls or dungarees from a pattern called the Roberts Collection by Marilla Walker, and that pattern available on Etsy, and it's a really great pattern collection, and I'm looking forward to making myself some more overalls from that pattern really soon. And I might as well move on to some of my works in progress. Now, I have a lot of works in progress. I always do. Earlier this year, when the Knit Girls from the Knit Girls podcast, which is one of my favourites, ran their, what is it called? The big stash buster, a stash along, or I don't know why I can't remember that name now. But it's where you finish all your whips that you've got hanging around, and you've got a bit of a deadline, and you then add up a stash, that's what it's called. And you add up all your yardage or meters of yarn that you've used to finish and complete all those whips, and you can then win prizes for finishing the most and things like that. It's a lot of fun, and it was nice to be able to interact with all other crafters who have loads and loads of whips on the go, and it was great encouragement to finish all the things that had just been languishing for months. And I literally finished every single one of my whips that I had hanging around, and I was so pleased, and I thought, that's it, from now on I will finish something before I start anything else. And that lasted about a week. And now I just have probably a dozen whips already on the go, and I'm not going to show them all to you today because we'll be here forever, so I'll just show you some of the whips that I'm presently working on at the moment. I've got a pair of socks that I'm knitting from yarn that I've dyed myself, and these are a Christmas present for a friend who won't be watching the podcast, so it's not going to be spoiled for her. So I've got this one here. You can see it. It's actually, the colour of the yarn is coming up a little brighter on the screen than it is in real life, but you get the idea. And it's a little speckled yarn, and I'm not using a pattern for this, it's just a 3x1 rib, and then plain for the foot. And I've used the Fish Lips Kiss heel, which is probably my favourite heel to use. It's nice and easy, and I like the way it fits. And here's one I prepared earlier, but you'll notice that I haven't actually finished this one. I know the size of this person's feet, the shoes that they take, but I was a little concerned that maybe it needs to be a smidgen bigger, so I decided not to graft the toe, because I think I might add a few more rows before I finish that one off. I don't know if you can really see the detail. I'm really enjoying using this yarn. The colours are coming up so nicely together. So I feel confident that I'll get those finished before Christmas. I've got another pair of socks on the go that I'm knitting for myself. So in the middle of all the Christmas knitting deadlines that I have, I decided to cast on a pair of socks that I don't really need to cast on. And these ones are being knit in Knit Picks Felici, which is their self-striping sock yarn, and it's really nice to work with. And this colourway is Madrigal. Isn't it fabulous? I love it so much. The colours are really great, and it's super soft and squishy. It's really nice. They're nice to knit, but they're also really nice to wear. And I'm not using a pattern on this pair either. It's just a 3x1 rib and Fish Lips Kiss heel. Look how perfectly the stripes worked in that heel. That really appealed to my knitting OCD. So that's that sock, and that is living in my super mini sock bag, project bag that I made, and this is the perfect size for socks on the go. it fits 100 grams of sock yarn and a pair of socks in it, and your needles obviously, and I have a little mini pair of scissors and a tape measure and some stitch markers and stuff floating around the bottom, you can hear them. And I sometimes use this bag when I'm doing my sock knitting while I'm walking, and I'm pretty sure people think I'm crazy when they drive past me and I'm walking along the road knitting socks. They've probably got no idea what I'm doing actually, but that's what I do. I'm the crazy lady that walks around town knitting socks. And I've got another pair of socks on the go for myself. And this pair I only really work on when I'm in between projects or I need something a bit mindless to work on because I'm doing something that requires a bit more attention. I often knit on these when I'm at knitting meetups and things like that where I know I'm going to be chatting and not really concentrating on what I'm doing. And I'm using some of my hand spun yarn, and it was the first time I had ever spun a sock yarn, and it was a deliberate spin. And when I say deliberate spin, I mean I actually wanted a particular type of yarn, and that's what I deliberately spun, and it actually worked. I got what I wanted, because I often don't really know what I'm going to get. I'm just going to get what I get at the end. My spinning skills aren't particularly advanced just yet. Like, a satisfactory, and I make usable yarns. I can't always get what I'm imagining I'm going to get, but that's alright. It's nice to have a few surprises in life. And once again, I'm not using a pattern. It's the same as the other two pairs I've just shown you, the 3x1 rib, and I'm really enjoying it. They're coming up really nicely, and it's quite a dense fabric, and these are going to be little foot ovens. They are so warm, and I can't wait to wear them, although it's probably going to be a little while before I actually get to use them because they're so warm, and we're actually in summer in Australia at the moment, so it might be a while. Maybe if I go camping or something I might get to wear them over summer, but it doesn't matter, they'll keep. So that's the yarn in the ball. I don't know how well that is showing up, but you get the idea. And that was a fleece that I got, well, actually a braid that I got at the Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show earlier in the year, which is our biggest sheep and wool show in Australia, and I like to go every year. It's my big knitting related or yarn related splurge, and it's always so much fun and constantly surrounded by all of your own kind, and it's a really great time of year for me. And I've got a few garments on the go as well, and these aren't really Christmas knitting either, and I have a few other whips that are secret Christmas knitting, so I can't show you because then the surprise might be spoiled for the recipients. But I'll try and do a little bit of filming of them at a later date that I will show you after the recipients have the pieces, so that there's no spoiling, but you'll get to see what I'm up to. So these whips that I'm showing you are things that aren't going to be spoiled by the podcast. This is a bit of a boring whip because nothing's really happening yet, and it's pretty small. So there you go. It's the beginning of a top for me, and it's the Lacy Baseball Tee by Emily Kintai, and in the pattern it's actually striped, but I didn't want to do stripes. I love wearing stripes, but I don't love knitting stripes. I just find it too tedious. Unless the yarn is self-striping, then I'll go for it. And you'll see one of the times in a moment where stripes have been a bad idea, maybe. Anyway, I'm knitting this using Knit Picks Cotton, which is a cotton linen blend. The clue is in the name, and it's really nice. It's not as rough as other linens that I've used before, and I think it's going to be really nice to wear in warm weather. And hopefully I'll have a bit more progress on this next time to show you, and it will look slightly more interesting. And if I can get this finished in time, I do have a Christmas party coming up that it might be nice to wear this too, so we'll see how we go. I won't promise myself anything there. And here's my stripy whip that I don't know if it's ever going to be finished. I really want the finished product because it's going to look fabulous when it's done, but like I said, I just don't enjoy knitting stripes. I just find it really tedious and taxing, and I'm not cutting the yarn at the end of each stripe sequence here. I'm just carrying it up the side, so I don't have a billion ends to weave in, because that would make knitting stripes even more punishing. This is actually the back of a top that I'm knitting, and this will be the shoulder neckline here. I'm only 5.5 stripes in, and I just wish someone else would knit it for me. It's one of my own designs, and it's eventually going to be a t-shirt style stripes, and the sleeves are short little cap sleeves, similar size to these sleeves here, and they're going to be the solid blue. It's a navy blue. I don't know how well that is actually showing up on the screen. And they're going to have little anchors in duplicate stitch on each shoulder in the ivory colour. So I think it's going to look incredibly cute if I ever finish it. So yeah, fingers crossed, maybe I'll get a spurt of stripe knitting enthusiasm from somewhere. Please send me your stripe knitting mojo through the airwaves. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. With this yarn that I'm using, it's really nice to work with. It's super soft and lovely, and it's the Knit Picks Comfy Worsted, and it's a cotton blend, and it's really nice. I've made a few tops for myself out of it, and I really enjoy wearing it. So hopefully I'll be wearing that in the not too distant future. And I've got some finished objects as well, and these have all been finished in the last week or two. I've got a Christmas present here that's finished, and this person won't be watching the podcast because they're only little and they probably don't know how to use a computer. So I've made these. I know they look a bit strange, yes, I know, but they're spiral rib tube socks. I don't know how well that is showing up for you there. And I've used the Regia Arden Carlos sock yarn. It doesn't actually have a colourway name, it just had some numbers, but I don't have the label on this, apologies. And I really like using this yarn. I don't know if you've made any socks with this yarn, but it's quite addictive because you want to see what's going to happen, the next colour, the next pattern change. This is a yarn that has the pattern printed on it, so you just knit and the pattern happens. It's great. It's great bang for your buck. But please remind me, if I ever lose my mind and think I'm going to knit another pair of spiral rib tube socks, please remind me that I never ever ever want to knit another pair of spiral tube socks ever in my life. These just took an agonizingly long time to finish. I don't know why, because they're tiny, I just found it really taxing to knit them. But I'm pleased that I persevered because I actually really love them, and I think the recipient's going to really enjoy them as well. He's quite fond of watching me knit, and I think he would really love to knit as well. So I think he's going to be quite pleased with a pair of hand knit socks. So they'll be heading off to that little person for Christmas, and I've also finished another little Christmas present for another little person, and I've got a few friends with babies, little babies at the moment, so I've been really enjoying knitting all sorts of little gorgeous baby knits, and I love knitting baby things because they're so cute, but they're also instant satisfaction, and they don't hang around languishing on my needles for too long because I know I can quickly, easily finish them, so they tend to get done. And I've made this little dress, isn't it sweet? It's the, hang on, I've got this written down. It's the Leaf Love Dress by Tiger Hilliard. Apologies if I just massacred that pronunciation. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and she writes really great patterns. She's a really good pattern writer. Everything's always very clear, and even if you're a beginner knitter, I think you would find lots of her patterns really achievable. And she has lots of interesting lacework, and she has lots of free patterns available as well as her paid patterns, so you can try them out and see if you like her pattern writing style, and it's a really good way to try out some gorgeous little knits. This one is knit in the Knit Picks Comfy Worsted in the Peony colourway, and you may notice that I'm using a lot of Knit Picks yarns. I have been coveting Knit Picks yarns for a really long time, but they didn't ship to Australia, and I even unsubscribed from their email newsletter because it made me too sad that I couldn't have those beautiful yarns. So I was very excited in March this year to discover that they were going to start shipping to Australia, and have been a very good customer of theirs since then, and I really enjoy their yarns. They're really, all the yarns I've used of theirs so far have been beautiful quality, they're gorgeous colours, and they're interesting fibres, and they're great value for money, and I'm sure I will keep using their yarns. And I've got one more finished piece, also Knit Picks yarn. I swear I'm not sponsored by Knit Picks, so you know, I'm sure that the thrill of using their yarn will eventually wear off, but it's still newish to me and other Australian knitters, so we're all going a little crazy for it at the moment. And this is another finished piece. Oh, how well you can see this. The whole thing is fitting in the screen. It's a cardigan that I've knit for myself, and I wanted a black cardigan that I could wear out. That wasn't too woolly, because obviously we're in summer now, and you just can't wear wool even at night where I live. During summer it's just too uncomfortable. So I made this one with partial wool. It's made using 2 strands held double. So I've got one strand of Knit Picks Stroll Glimmer in black, and another strand of Knit Picks Comfy Fingering in the black. And the Comfy Fingering is a cotton blend, and the Stroll Glimmer is their wool nylon blend sock yarn with sparkles in it. You can probably see those sparkles. Maybe it just looks like dog hair stuck on there. which most of my pieces have anyway. And this is a pattern that I've written, and it's presently being tested at the moment, and I hope to publish it sometime in the new year, in 2016. Hopefully earlier rather than later in the new year. I've got some lovely testers working on them at the moment. Hello, my lovely testers. And I'm really enjoying this cardigan. It's light, but it's warm. But it's not hot and sweaty like wearing wool in summer. And the buttons are interesting. I don't know how all those are showing up there. Buttons that I got from a second-hand store in town. They were having a button sale, so of course I had to get lots and lots. I really struggled to find decent black buttons, and I use black buttons a lot, it seems, and they seem to be the hardest to find. I don't know why. So whenever I see black buttons, I snap them up. And just checking my show notes here to see if I've forgotten anything. I think I've covered just about all my projects and things that I've done. You can find me on Instagram as Shara Made, and that's Shara_Made, MADE. And you can find me on Ravelry as Shara Designs, and you can also join the What Shara Made podcast Ravelry group. You'll find that in the group section. And that'd be great if you wanted to join in, if you've got any questions for me, you want to know about any of my pole whips. And I'd love to hear from anyone else who loves multi-crafting as much as I do. And thank you so much for joining me on my very first episode of the What Shara Made podcast. And I'll see you again really soon. Thank you.